Hello, welcome back to Face to Face Conversations. Today I am speaking with a wonderful Katie Elliott. Katie is a former children's author and illustrator. She's also a very accomplished jazz musician, and she's currently working on something called Little Challenges, which is a project exploring the messiness of being human. Katie believes that images are the portal to moments often forgotten, and she likes to look for the gift in everything in life. Today's recording is very special because her image, her chosen image, took her somewhere where she wasn't expecting to go. I won't say any more than that, so enjoy. Katie, welcome to Face Conversations. Thank you so much for joining me today. Tell me about your picture.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel really excited to talk about this picture. And it's because it's a picture of me doing something where I was feeling more alive than I almost ever do. So I'll just show you the picture so you can see what I'm doing. So this was me probably about 10 years ago, a bit longer maybe. And at that point I was working largely as a musician. And I found that when I was playing music, I was completely in my element, to the extent that everything kind of disappeared. But what I found increasingly was that although when I was playing music, I was completely absorbed by it and completely happy, when I finished, I found that life was becoming more and more difficult. So I had a place I could go in terms of expressing myself through music where I felt completely well and sane and happy. And I was performing quite regularly. But what I noticed was that as soon as I stopped playing, it was really hard to be here. Um, and and so shortly after that picture was taken, I decided to stop performing, which was quite a big decision. I'd been working as a musician for quite a long time, but I came to the conclusion that there was something about working as a musician and performing that was causing me to have the struggles that I was having in terms of feeling anxious and depressed. And so I thought that if I stopped playing in front of people, those feelings would go away. But the interesting thing was that the feelings just followed me, and it turned out that it was nothing to do with the music at all. It was something that I couldn't run away from.
Wow. Gosh. And what was that thing you couldn't run away from?
Well, in the work that I do now, we talk a lot about the idea that you come into the world with some kind of gift that you have to express. That everybody who comes into the world has a gift at the heart of them, which is a bit like a seed that's in there and it's unique to you. And that during the course of your life, it kind of breaks open and it grows. And that expression is kind of what makes your life feel worthwhile. And the interesting thing about this notion is that the thing that you're here to do may not be something that you find easy. So what I found when I was playing was that the reason it was so difficult for me was because I would get totally absorbed by what I was doing, and I would forget that anything else existed. I would forget that there was a room full of people. I would forget where I was. I would forget what year it was. I forget everything. And I would be so incredibly open because I was mainly playing with other people and improvising. And in order to improvise well with other people, you have to be so totally in the moment and listening and present that you kind of screen everything out, I think. So I would be in this totally present state, but then at the end of the gig, that feeling of coming back to normality, coming back to a room full of people, going home, I found it really difficult to reconcile that. And I would feel incredibly vulnerable because I'd been so unguarded whilst I was playing, because I was doing my thing, and I didn't care about anything else. But then afterwards, I would have these horrendous feelings of shame. And I remember one time walking home from a venue, and I'd literally only walked a few yards down the road before I started crying, because I felt so ashamed of myself for having made myself so visible by just expressing and being present in front of a group of people. So what I thought I could run away from by stopping being a musician was that feeling of presence, and then feeling really vulnerable afterwards. But interestingly, what happened after I stopped being a musician was that I did other work, and I kept finding myself in situations where I would be in front of people and I would make myself incredibly unguarded and vulnerable, just in different ways, by giving talks or doing workshops or whatever it might be. And the same feelings just followed me, because it was never about the music, it was about that sense of showing up. Um, so I came to realize that perhaps something in my gift is about showing up, but it's not always easy for me to
No.
manage that.
And it's just beautiful. I'm seeing someone who has a desire, like, I mean, like I do, like so many people, like, desire to be seen, and for who they really are, and your innate pull to show your vulnerability. I find it's just extraordinarily beautiful, and I love your image because there's three of you in the image, and we're not just looking at you once, we're looking at you three times from three different angles, and three ever so slightly different, aren't they? Almost. And I love the mirroring that's gone on there, and your total focus on what you're doing. What do you feel? What's your kind of biggest emotion when you look at the image?
Honestly, right now, I feel sad,
Okay.
because I don't really play anymore. And when you asked me to choose an image, I didn't think I would choose this one.
Mm.
But something about choosing it and then sitting with it, knowing that we were going to have this conversation, really, really reminded me how much I feel like myself in that space, how that language and that environment and that incredible, spontaneous, beautiful, collaborative exploration is where I feel most myself. And I listened to some piano music yesterday, and I found I just cried, because I remembered how much I loved it. And I think maybe it's time that I try to find a way of doing that somehow again.
Mm. That would be amazing. What would it bring you, do you think?
Um, I think it would give me a sense of completeness, maybe. And I think maybe this is a good time, because I'm I'm going to be 49 this year, and I'm rather belatedly, I'm kind of finding my voice in life. So I've always been really scared to speak out, and I've kept myself quiet for a long, long time. But there's something in me these days that doesn't want to be quiet anymore. And so I'm beginning to realize that maybe that showing up is going to happen in a variety of ways. So maybe there'll be a musical expression of that too.
That's really exciting. I love that because I'm on this similar journey. We're just pretty much the same age, aren't we? Finding our voices, and I love that. I'm really excited to hear what and see what your voice is going to produce and create. So tell me, Katie, what do you see in this woman in the picture? What does she represent for you?
I see somebody who feels completely enough in that moment.
Mm.
And I remember I've got another picture here, which maybe I can just show you.
Yeah.
This was me when I'd been playing the piano for about a year,
Bless.
and with a very, very bad haircut. I think we can agree.
Lovely.
But I see the same person in both pictures. But I was, as a kid, I was very shy and found it very difficult to know where to fit, and was quite scared a lot of the time. And the way I coped was at school, I didn't know how to handle the social stuff, so I would take myself away to a music room or a classroom, and I'd just go and play. That was how I got through school. And so I spent all of those early years using music as a safe place, not realizing where it would take me, and the fact it wouldn't feel very safe. But I think there's something about joining those different parts together and just allowing that expression that will give me a sense of completeness that maybe I haven't quite found yet.
So do you see completeness in this picture, or is this something else?
I think in the moment of actually playing, yeah, there's always completeness.
And I would never have guessed that you were playing with someone else. I mean, and that's such an assumption on my part. Looking at this picture, I thought that you were performing on your own.
Actually, in that picture, yes,
Oh,
I am
right.
alone. Sorry to confuse, but normally I would be playing with other people, and
Right.
that was always my favorite place to be. That sense of making something between you that couldn't be made alone.
Yeah. What do you think Katie in this picture would say to you now?
I think she'd say, "What are you waiting for?"
And what's your answer, Katie? What do you want to say to her?
Um, Nothing. There's nothing to wait for now.
No. It's absolutely, I mean, I'm so moved. I'm so moved by this picture and your response to it. Do you have it up at home? No.
No, my mum used to have a copy of it in a frame, and then when she died, I just took it down.
Okay. So does this picture remind you of your mum then?
No,
Doesn't.
it was the picture I gave to her, and it felt a bit weird to have a picture of me somehow.
Oh no. See, I'd love you to gain strength from this and it to be out and remind you what it's calling you to do.
Well, maybe I will, because this other little picture, this one here, I've had this on my desk for the last few weeks, because I realized that when I look at it, it's much harder to be hard on myself.
Yeah.
When I'm doing things that I find scary, or I'm making mistakes, or I don't know how best to proceed, I find it really easy to beat myself up inside my own head. But when I look at that picture, I can't do it in the same way, because I kind of need to look after her.
Yeah. Can we see her again? She's got a lot to do, hasn't she? She's got a lot to do. That's a determined little face. She's brilliant. What does she help you to do then? So you speak kinder to yourself. What else does she do?
She reminds me of that. There's just that kind of joy, I think, which also shows up in the older picture. It's that joy of just doing what you love to do in those moments when you've forgotten about how you look and what people think and whether it's important enough, and you're just there.
Beautiful. Katie, thank you so much. How has it been talking about this picture and the other one as well?
um, I I feel like it's been a really valuable reminder of something, and that if we hadn't had this conversation, I wouldn't have found that photo, and maybe I would have allowed myself to keep forgetting for a bit longer.
Wow. Thank you. I'm very moved.
Thank
Such
you.
a beautiful conversation. Thank you ever so much, Katie. Gosh, what a moving conversation. I've watched it a couple of times since I recorded it, and it never fails to bring me to tears. Just such an incredible demonstration of the power of photography, of images of ourselves. It reminded Katie that she's enough, and that performing helps her find her voice. And it was like a coming home, I felt, to her vulnerability, and the way that she likes to express herself the best, and her most favourite way to describe herself, to express herself. And if photographs, like Katie said, are portals to memories that we've forgotten, then this is just such a beautiful demonstration of that. And I'm so moved that she found this picture on the back of me asking her to do face-to-face conversations. I absolutely love that. Yeah. Thank you for watching.